Hi, good afternoon, good evening. It's Patrick here. 8 questions with Have Cheetah Will View. Uh, Cheetah is here today. He came up to hang out with us for this interview. We will be talking to Josh DeForge. He is the owner and operator of Running Scared Motion Pictures. Um, so we've been talking to a studio owner, and that'll be a lot of fun. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I've only really talked to one, uh, I've talked to people who own production companies, but not the studios itself. We talked once to, hi, Aaron, how are you, sir? We talked to Joe Lujan on the Midnight Hour about his studio. So this would be really fun to talk with Josh. His studio looks beautiful. He also does cinematography and photography. Hi, Casey. So this will be an interesting discussion. Because now running a studio today could be, it could be good, or it could be rather adventuresome. Hello, T. Betty. How are you? Glad you are here. Hopefully, you're feeling better. Hopefully, your ribs are feeling better. Um, our guest will be here with us momentarily, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, I think it's going to be. I think we're going to see a very impassioned and determined young man, and 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 we'll hear about why he decided to start a studio, and how much fun it is. And of course, you know who's here now. He didn't make an appearance yesterday, but he did now, right? Did you make an appearance? You want to come by again? Your public wants to see you again. Hi, Chadwick. How are you? Oh God. Yeah, well, I got that movie for the right price, Casey, that's for sure. Only paid 50 cents for it. So I think I did pretty good. And of course, there goes the cheetah. Hey Michael, how are you, sir? We will be talking to studio owner Jason DeForge at 8 o'clock. He owns and operates the Running Scared Motion Picture Studio. So we will be talking with him. Um, I had a great time talking to our guest last night, Chris Loranger, and you guys really supported that interview really, really well. I can't thank you enough on that. Hi, Katie. Speaking of shows, speaking of new shows, uh, the Midnight Hour has spun off yet another show, and that is the Witching Hour, which with Katie and her friends Ashley and Brianna and sassy Jennifer Tochi, which will be Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Starting this Saturday. Hi, Moon over Miami. Welcome everybody. Thank you, T. Betty. Thank you so much. So yeah, it's a perfect day for an interview. That's for sure. It's gray and it's overcast. It's a little bit chilly. It's about 40 degrees here in southeastern Michigan. So perfect day. Um, if you guys have not seen this, if you guys have not seen it, I have a couple new videos out. Our Dollar Tree Theater is out today. We reviewed an old classic from Walt Disney from 1979. We reviewed the North Avenue Irregulars. And if you're a little older like I am, you will really, really like it because it has a lot of familiar faces that we grew up with. And if you haven't seen it and you're young, then you can take a look and see how Disney used to the movies Disney used to put out, and that's an education all in itself. So that video is out now. And then today I went to the library. It was bag sale day, and I didn't do quite as good as the last bag sale, but I did all right. I finally found a copy of Up. I, uh, I, Katie, I've been looking for that for years. It's not that I haven't seen it because that's exactly what it is. I haven't. It's not like because I've never seen a copy in the wild. It's the most craziest thing. I have never seen that movie in the wild. Um, Not at disc replay, not at any of the other sales I've been to, not yard sales, nothing. Now I know, yes, you could go to a store or you could go to online, but I rather not do that. I enjoy the hunt. Um, like Waffles can tell you that, and Casey can tell you that. It's just something really fun about hunting down a movie that you really, really like. And sometimes you have to buy it. Like if you collect boutique labels, you have to wait and go to their websites and whatnot. Um, but since I am a collector on a budget, I have to find them the old-fashioned way. They have to fall to me. So, um, oh, I did. Oh, I did watch it. The North Avenue Irregulars. I did. Oh, Up. Yeah, Up. I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch that sooner than later, for sure. Right now, I just started watching a movie called Josie, starring Dylan McDermott and Sophie Turner. I just started watching that, and so far so good. So far so good. Interesting movie so far. Let's see. Well, I can talk about the calendar because you guys all expect that. Uh, all right. All right. So we only have two more shows after tonight. We only have two more shows on the month. April just flew by. Um, I want to thank you again for last night for supporting that Chris Loranger show. Tremendous artist. I hope he gets. I really do hope Ditch breaks him out because that movie is insane. If you have Amazon Prime, you need to watch Ditched. It is crazy. Um, it's one for the books. If you like Saw, you'll love Ditched. So I know there's a lot of Saw fans here, so I know there will be a lot of Ditch fans here. And if you do watch it, I would love for you to come back to his interview, and I'd love for you to come back to the interview we did with him and tell us what you think of Ditched. Hi, Jamie. How are you? Hopefully, you're feeling well. It's one of our most favorite people on the tube, Jamie Hart. Uh, um, Hopefully, you guys are all doing well tonight. Tomorrow night, we will be interviewing Angel Bradford tomorrow at 8 o'clock. She is the star of Shark Exorcist 2, and she's done a lot of fun horror films. Um, a lot, just the kind of movies that we all collect, we all watch and collect. So she's done a lot of these fun horror movies, creature features, whatnot. So she seems like it'll be a lot of fun. And then I also on Thursday we will be talking to um, film composer and documentary filmmaker Emiko. And I watched her video. She does a podcast, and I watched the interviews that she did. And she's gonna be very fun to talk with. She's very bubbly, very knowledgeable. Um, she likes hi-fi. Like she's into sound, and being a musician, you can see why. So she'll be here on Thursday at 8 o'clock. And then that'll be it for April. Just two more shows. May 1st sees me and Echo Echo Zero and I will be up on the Midnight Society, and we will be talking about Fist of Legend. I hope you guys all come out for that. I know it's not horror. I know it's a martial arts movie, but I really hope you guys will come out for this because this is a very fantastic movie, and one you want to one you we will have a lot of fun on Sunday. A lot of fun. Hey, Kevin, how are you, sir? Mr. Bones, welcome, sir. Uh, Hopefully everybody's doing well. Our guest is here. So put your hands together for the owner and operator of Running Scared Motion Pictures, Josh DeForge. Let's go get him.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Good.
I think when I said Fist of Legend, I think that made you hit that come in a little early.
Well, I haven't used this streaming service before, so I wanted to make sure I could get on and figure it out ahead of time.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
It is, yeah, I like it a lot.
Um, and it probably helped out that I did mention Fist of Legend. I have a feeling you are into action and adventure yourself, Josh. Am I right?
Oh, I'm into a lot of things. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
It's funny because we do a Sunday show called the Midnight Society. I do it with my buddy Al Lucard. He's gone on vacation for a couple of weeks, so right now we're currently doing a deep dive on the Friday the 13th franchise. So while he's gone, we had to go on hiatus off of that. So I said, well, can we talk about to fill up the slot while he's on vacation? So I said, well, why don't we talk about one of my very favorite martial art films? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Fist of Legend, which is, I don't know if you know this or not. I'm sure you do, but some of the chat might not know, is basically Jet Li's homage to Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury. I got to tell you, and I said this before, but it may be a homage, but it's also a better movie too.
There you go.
Yeah, but Fist of Legend is one of the best. It has one of the best fight scenes ever. It's nuts, absolutely nuts. So how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be on and get Running Scared out there a little bit.
Yeah, I see that. I see you working very hard at that. I saw your Instagram page is moving a little bit. I saw your YouTube page as well. It's a hard nut to promote, isn't it?
It sure is, because it's like what I'm learning now is this whole getting your stuff seen and getting it out there. It's not about the quality of your content. It's not about what you're doing. It's about the game. It's about the hustle. It's about the hashtag. It's about the posts, the sharing, the likes. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, you let's see, did I freeze up here? I think I did. Yeah, hold on one second. This is one thing about StreamYard. As soon as like you first go on, sometimes we'll have a small glitch. There we go. Yeah, it's a bear. I mean, especially when you run your own studio, you're oh my gosh. I mean, you're just a one-man army, and whereas you would like to have like I never really understood what like a social media manager does, but I do now. And holy crow. I mean, I think it's starting to come it's worth its weight in gold if you could actually, if you're a bigger business, like, or a growing business such as yourselves, if you have one to help you manage, because social media management can take a whole day. You have to go to you to be able to shoot videos and put them up, and you have to make fresh content, or you're helping others make content. Maybe they're helping, because you do show reels and stuff like that, or photography, or or shorts, or whatever it is. You help the artists get out there using these same platforms, and you could do it so much for them that your story get lost. You could, before you know it, you look behind in your own social media is behind because you're so busy focusing on everybody else. Um, it's hard. It, um, and everybody here in the chat, they're pretty much all YouTubers as well, and I think they can all relate to how much work you have to do. But of course, you do it on steroids because you run a studio.
Yeah,
Um,
kind of.
now, what kind, before I mean, just real basically, real quick, what type of services does running scared motion pictures offer? Are you like a full service studio?
Yeah, so basically, I can do live streaming video. I do commercials, I do weddings, I do music videos. I've done many documentaries for race car drivers. I have a group of buddies that have a football podcast that hire me once a week to go over there and set up and do a little video podcast for them. I'm a production house. If you have audio, videos, or any sort of need media wise, I want to be that guy.
Um, Now, is that something that you just came across doing, or did you get your start? Um, did you has this always been your baby, or did you come from being an actor or a cinematographer or director? I mean, how did you come into starting um, your studio?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy, actually. I mean, for the last 15 years, I was a full-time firefighter paramedic, and I've been dabbling in video. I'd say probably serious now for about 5 years, and it's kind of crazy because growing up, I have ADHD, which I'm sure it will come across through this interview at some point. The way my brain bounces and I change subjects and things like that. But no, so I've done a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things, but I've never really been an artful person. I can't sing, I can't draw. I just didn't really have that like creative aspect. I played paintball and I raced motocross and I did things like that. But one day I picked up a camera and it was just a point and shoot, just like regular camera you'd buy at Best Buy, and I just started having some fun with it. And it turned into the point where I enjoyed that enough where I wanted to take a chance at like trying an actual like video camera. And at the time, the Canon 5D Mark II was like getting really, really popular. It was at a time you can get like a DSLR and have this unbelievable quality that you just never had access to before. And me, my uncle, and myself, we bought 3 of these Canon 60D cameras, and I started shooting some boxing stuff. So I was basically a cinematographer at the time for Western New England Golden Gloves here in Massachusetts. And then that turned into some friends saw me and they were like, "Hey, you want to shoot my wedding?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll shoot your wedding." And that turned into, a commercial here, some stuff here and there. And I just kept growing. I just kept working really hard. And now like I said, I'm to the point where I own all my own gear. I own a full lighting setup. I own all my own audio stuff. And I'm just trying to transition. I just recently in February was finalized. I ended up walking away from the fire service and EMS. I give it 15 strong, hard, long years, and the last couple of years haven't been easy for anybody. And mental health right now is a hot topic issue, and there's not enough people getting enough support out there. And it just came down to I wasn't happy where I was, so I decided, I'm going to make my own path, and I walked away. And now I'm taking the chance and holding my breath every day, trying to make the dream come true and happen. And I'm out there trying to chase down weddings and commercials and all that stuff. But that's kind of where I am or who I am and where I'm at now.
Where's your studio? We got a question from the chat. Where's your studio located at?
I'm right in Belchertown, Massachusetts. And what's really cool is in this area, there's a lot of talent, but they always seem to be going out towards like Boston or New York and things like that. And what's crazy is in the last 5 years, I am completely self-taught. Everything I've done. You can go to my website, runningscaredmotionpictures.com, my YouTube, things like that. We just submitted our first short film for a festival, which I think we have a good chance of actually placing in and things. And I'm self-taught, but I self-taught myself working 48 to 60 plus hours on the ambulance for the last 5 years too. Like I'm just driven. I'm passionate and I love the art of filmmaking. And I devour media for it. I mean, I started buying books. I stumbled across Film Riot. I watched Andrew Kramer and his, video color tutorials and things like that. And I just, been growing my skills. So to be perfectly honest, like I'm going to be dangerous in the next year, like when I can really put my focus into this and I can grow and and transform and just not have the burden of, being on the ambulance full time as well. So like I said, I'm just kind of excited.
Uh, yeah, I want to go. I'm gonna get have to circle back. I'm gonna circle back here because I got a little ahead, but I just wanted to establish that because I had a couple of questions I wanted to get out of the way.
Yeah,
But I
sorry.
really want to, I really want to do is go back to the beginning because I'm curious about the 15 years he spent as a fireman paramedic. Um, so where were you born and raised at?
I was born in Springfield, Massachusetts, but I was raised in Granby, Massachusetts. And I'm fortunate, man. I'm really lucky. I came from a good, hardworking family. And, my parents worked really hard so I could have a lot when I was younger. I got to grow up racing dirt bikes and motocross. And like I said, the way my brains worked, I've always been a doer. I'm not really a bookwork type of person. And I just set my roots in Granby. Grew up pretty much my whole life there. And about 6 years ago, I moved to Belchertown, which is just the next town over. And I plan on dying here in this house. So
Well, not anytime soon.
no, a long time from now.
Let's see. Can you see the chat? Can you see the chat where you're at?
Yeah, I can scroll down and catch up. Yeah, I can now.
Okay. I'm just looking to see if oh, Jamie's saying that she got hit in the head. Okay. Well, hopefully, poor Jamie. She's had you had a rough weekend. But glad you're here. Uh, okay, so you grew up in a small town with a loving family and supportive family, and so here you are, you're racing dirt bikes. Did you grow up? Did you consider yourself creative or just a man of action?
I was not a creative at all. I mean, to be perfectly honest, even when I was in school, I struggled hard. In high school, I ended up going to a vocational school, and my reading level was like, I'm not trying to rag on myself, but when I graduated, I probably had like a third or fourth grade reading level. I mean, I didn't enjoy it. I was somebody that I didn't find value in myself. I struggled in school, and I thought it meant that because I didn't learn the same way everybody else did, there was something wrong with me, or I just wasn't going to get it. And it just took me a long time over the years to kind of work with my brain and understand that, my brain's different and I learn things differently and I do things differently, and I just try to focus on that now and grow from it.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. And you must have had like a hell of a spurt after that because um, becoming a firefighter is not easy, and you have to be extremely smart for that. You have to, people think that it's as easy as just grabbing some hose and turning on water, and it's not nearly so simple. You have to
Yeah.
learn a lot of complex, like what type of water to throw on a fire, how much pressure. You don't want to just grab a hose and turn on the high pressure. And, you have to be smart. You have to know how chemicals react and how they react to each other and all that. So even though you came out of that, do you feel like once you started getting into, did you go to college for to be a firefighter or the academy?
No, well, yeah. So the way it works is basically nowadays to become a firefighter, you pretty much have to be a paramedic. There are still a few departments that will hire basic EMTs or just firefighters, but they're few and far between now. So you have to be a basic EMT before you can become a paramedic, and that takes almost about a year. And the courses are like $1,000, and they go about 6 months. And then after you get that, you're supposed to get a certain amount of patient contacts. So you're supposed to work for a company and get a certain amount of calls, and then you can go for your paramedic. Your paramedic's about $12,000 to $15,000. It takes you a year of your life just for the classroom time, and then you do the didactic portion. Or that's the didactic portion. So then you do your like ride time, your clinicals, and that takes like another 6 months to a year. And it just comes down to how fast you can get it done and how lucky you are at times, because you'll have to go into an emergency room and you'll have to get, so many IVs or so many intubations. And there's days you'll go in and just, there's not enough to get. So you have to go back time and time again. And then you're a paramedic and you go and you work. And when you get the street cred as a paramedic and the experience, then a company will pretty much hire you as a firefighter. And then you go to the academy. The academy is only, for me, it was 10 weeks. And I went to Springfield, Massachusetts academy. And it's 10 weeks of hell. I'll tell you, it's Monday through Friday. I went in the dead heat of summer where it's 130 degrees on the blacktop. And we were in full turnout gear for, 5 or 6 hours doing push-ups on carbon fiber bottles on, the ground. And it was intense. It was wild.
Um, what led you to, you mentioned school. Now, were you active in school? Like, did you participate in clubs? And, like when was your first exposure to, with cameras and lighting and whatnot? Was that something you did? Like, did you were interested in taking pictures of your buddies, running around on bikes, because you guys were, because I'm sure you took a lot of pictures, of your races and your friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I started doing the boxing, that was pretty much where like that first like creative element hit me, where I started, kind of making more like montage videos to music and things like that. And then I wanted the videos to look a little bit better, so I started learning some color correction. But I was shooting on a Canon 60D back then, so there wasn't a lot of overhead at the time. And I think it was just then it was like, I don't know, it kind of started slowly, but I would put out a video and I would be proud of it. I would be happy with the way it came out. And that was exciting for me. And I kind of wanted to chase it and get to the next level and see where I could go. And it's crazy because firefighting and paramedicine, it's not super, it's not like filmmaking. In filmmaking, like you've been on set before, there's a million things that can and will go wrong. And you need to troubleshoot and figure out things like the second that they happen and come up with the best way to do it. And that's a lot like paramedicine and firefighting. So I think filmmaking, the challenge in the way you have to be, you have to be proactive and you have to think ahead. I like that. I like that challenge. And it kind of drew me to it. So I started getting into higher level productions, and then the higher level productions turned into a lot more like sophisticated breakdowns of sets and things like that. And I started chasing it. I loved it. It was like the same excitement I had when I was learning, medicine and those new things and such.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that's really fun, because I think you and I probably had something in common. How did you, how did you decide to start doing this? I mean, it's not like you just, walk onto a set, is it? Was it that easy that you saw somebody filming or a friend filming and you say, hey, I'm willing to help out. What can I do to help? Was it that easy, you know, or did you have to look for it? How did you get into on your first set?
Yeah, so I'm a people person. Honestly, like that's why I got into paramedicine. I love to talk to people. I love to hear their stories. I think our ability to tell stories is what makes us human. I mean, it really is. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I worked in Holyoke, Massachusetts, where I got to, bring in some of the last of the World War II veterans and hear their stories and things like that. So when I was presented with this opportunity where it's like I can create something that, allows me to encapsulate, save, preserve, and showcase like something so beautiful, it really got me excited. So I bring that up because again, like the talking to people and stuff. So I just talk. I'm a talker. It's crazy because I don't actually even know anybody that like had a camera around me. Like I said, I am completely self-taught. So here I am. I'm this kid with this Canon 60D, and I'm shooting some boxing. I get a few weddings and things like that. And I ended up shooting a few commercials, and I shot a few commercials for something called New England Scarefest, which actually it's not really around anymore. It was like a little haunted attraction. And while I was there, I met a director. And basically, through meeting that director, I ended up working on a film with him. The film's called Blood Reservoir, and the director, his name's Mark Anthony Del Negro. And a lot of it was shot here in Massachusetts. It's got Felissa Rose in it. Maximum Sorrentino. The names are escaping me, but there's like a few names in it and stuff. And that was like my first experience. And it was literally just because I put myself out there and I talked to people and I was, hey, I'm Josh and I got a camera and I want to work. Like, let's make it sick. Like, let's do something. And they saw something in me and said, hey, like, let's try it out. And then I was on set working on a movie, not a top tier, like big budget movie, but it got my foot in the door, and then
Oh
after that,
yeah,
I was like, I want to do
I
this.
mean, I think it's easier to get your foot in the door in a small independent than it would be walking up to a big multi-million-dollar movie. They're not gonna be nearly as generous, or basically say, hey, come on, we're all learning together. I mean, a big
Yeah,
production is like, how many credits do you have? Do you have 100 credits? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have, and you know no, I don't, but you got to start somewhere in order to get those things. our friend Jamie wants to know what are your inspirations? Who inspires you?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard, but behind me here, I've got kind of a lot of memorabilia and things like that. As far as filmmaking right now, Christopher Nolan he's my favorite. I mean, I love everything the guy does. I think he's so talented. Um, I think the way he tells stories, it's a little bit different. I like the way he manipulates and plays with time. Um, I like the cinematographers he uses. I find his work inspiring. But also is it's funny because I see it, her question is what my inspirations are. Out of somebody as talented as him, I find inspirations, but I will literally go on YouTube and watch like, the lowest budget, like, movies. And I will find a lot of inspiration out of that too, because sometimes seeing something that you like is good inspiration, but sometimes seeing something you don't like and you know what you don't want to do is, it also helps out and saves you some time spinning your wheels.
Wow. So you watch YouTube and you watch other movies to be inspired. Huh. Have you ever seen a movie called Blood Claws?
No, oh, wait, is that the like horror Santa Claus one, like the messed up Christmas movie?
Um, no, no. This was about an escaped Black Panther from the zoo.
Oh, no, 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 I haven't then. Nope.
Oh my gosh, we'll have to fix that. Yeah, you should be. I like to see how you get inspired by watching that. Um, you'll probably be inspired to come over here and pound me for that. But no, we're just it's just a actually no, you know what though, I'm very I'm very curious though to see what you think of it. I am going to send you a link to the movie. Cinematography wise, I would like to know what you think of it. I mean, as far as that goes, I'm sure down over here Casey's cracking up about me saying that, but yeah, I'm would so now you're on your first set, Blood Reservoir. Were you nervous when you came onto the first time? I mean, you're there, you have confidence in your skills, but this is like a step up from what you've been doing. This is like, wow, there's people here that I've seen on the screen before. Were you somewhat intimidated by that, or did you feel right at home?
No, I mean, I was definitely intimidated at first. And to be perfectly honest, I was in way over my head. I mean, I had no clue what I was doing at the time. It's crazy because when you start out working a camera, you go from like, and again, I don't mean to like offend anybody when I say this, but I think the progression, you go more of like a collage filmmaker at first, where it's like, the progression, you start with the image and then you start putting music to it. And you get good at that. You develop your skill and then you think like, wow, I've got this, I've got what I need. But then you go to a set where there's blocking, where there's timing, where there's lighting, where there's a lot more that goes into it. And that gut check of kind of like, oh, wow, like this is filmmaking and there's a lot more into it. Oh, no, that set in. I definitely had that feeling for sure.
Uh, so after the first set, now when this is happening, uh, had you already started being a firefighter, or how soon was it after you became a firefighter that you started doing this more and more? How
Oh,
did you
yeah.
balance?
I was a full-time firefighter for about so I was a paramedic EMT for 10 years, and then the last 5 years I was a full-time firefighter paramedic together. I had actually started in a volunteer fire department and I was a call guy for a long time. But like I said, it was basically, I'd say about 7 years ago was when I really picked up a camera and I started doing this, but it's only been the last 5 years that I've been trying to take it serious and like really grow and see where I could take it.
Uh, you sound like you definitely come across as someone who's very positive, and I appreciate that because I know firefighting, is very much like a very much like for other first responders. You're right. It can wear on you. I mean, you see a lot. I mean, you've seen a lot in your career. I can tell. Um, how did what was it like for when you worked your first fire, or you worked your first patient? Do you remember your first call, your first official call as a paramedic?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll try to be careful on this because where I can go with topics with this, it can be a wide range of things. But
Yeah,
I'll
any names that you want to say, just say Smith and Jones.
yeah, no, no, I know, but it's just one of those things where it can be triggering for some people out there. But it's like I'll be honest, I loved my job. I loved firefighting and being a paramedic. It's not something that I thought I was ever going to leave. I honestly thought I was going to retire on it, but you know, COVID changed a lot of things, and Now there's a lot of people out there that say a lot of things about it. I don't want to touch on that. I don't want to talk anything about that. But the facts were, like, at the time, like when the NFL was going on, they were having games and people at the games would get a bracelet. If somebody tested positive for COVID, they could figure out, like, they'd run the bracelets to see, like, okay, this person was standing, 15 feet away from you for X amount of time. Like, that's cool technology, right? Like, that stuff's out there. I'm a frontline paramedic who wakes up, 2 days a week, 24-hour shifts going to work, where we're being told there's this deadly virus that's like, you remember all the news.
Mm-hmm.
We show up to work and they literally gave us raincoats. They said, hey, we have no idea if these work or not, but here's raincoats. I didn't get my first set of eye protection until 18 months after the shutdown and the lockdowns had happened. There are right now, like, it's so sad, like the mental health system it's never been very good. And for first responders, it doesn't exist. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't homicidal. I wasn't suicidal, but working the job and, adding COVID on top of what we normally see. I mean, I've pulled people out of buildings that have burned to death. I've been the last person that, a lot of human beings have seen in the back of the ambulance. I've got multiple save awards from the state. I've delivered babies. I delivered a 26-pound or a 26-week, 2.5-pound premature baby on a third floor that I had to do CPR on with one hand, that lived with no neurological deficits. Like, I've done some really, really cool things. But now here I am, I've had to see a lot of things and go through a lot of things, and we're frontline, and they didn't help us. We asked for help. We asked for more gear, things like that. And it's not just my department. It just kind of was everywhere. And it was to the point where I was waking up every day. And, I appreciate you saying that I'm happy and I'm positive now. And I really want to be, because again, like, I've seen the times in people's lives where things have truly been awful, or, they're at the end of their life, and I can see what's important. And it's not, the boats that you were on or the cameras that you had. It was the people that you spent your time with. And it was, it was your family and those things. And that's what I try to hold on to. So when I left the job, again, like, it was the best decision I ever made, because it was to the point where I changed a lot and the job changed a lot. And,
Yeah.
I was terrified to step out and try to start my own business as a production company, especially to do something like that where I don't get the same check every single week,
Right.
So, I mean,
Right.
that's just to, like, touch on, like, a little bit of the trauma on the job. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I've seen pretty much everything that you could imagine that a firefighter paramedic would see. And I'll tell you, like, it's normally not the really bad, gory stuff that you see. It's like, it's the smell, or it's a sound. It's like, those are the things that stick with you. Like, I walked away from the job, like I said, like the middle of February was like my last time. And, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I have PTSD from it. Like, I've been dealing with, like, having, like, nightmares and stuff. So I'm trying to get, like, my sleeping down.
I think most any firefighter paramedic has PTSD. I mean, he's 50 after 15 years. I mean, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think this is true. I mean, it could be wrong. You can correct me, but I mean, I think you have a lot. I think your success rate is probably a lot more than not. It's like, as far as save rates go. I mean, yes, you've seen people die, or you've had people die in your arms, basically. But I think that you probably had a lot more saves, like that little baby. And you have to draw upon that. You have to draw upon that to keep saying it. I mean, I get that. And it's not easy. I mean, it's seeing someone dead. I mean, it's very heartbreaking. And yeah, the first responders, like I said, well, we won't get into that per se, but I mean, I definitely respect that. But I will say this: that without you guys in the front lines, there's a lot more people that would be dead.
Yeah.
And I say this, and I'll say it now, and I don't care what people think about that, but we lost 600,000 people in the pandemic during the first year, and I dare say we wouldn't have lost that many at all, hardly at all. We could have probably lost a very low percentage of that if we would have had proper leadership, but we didn't. We had people calling it a hoax, didn't take it seriously. They dragged their ass. every day that they didn't try, every day that they were dividing us. Oh, you don't have to wear that, or you don't have to take that medicine, or you could take, or try bleach. Um, every day that happened put more and more pressure on your shoulders. And that's not fair. That isn't fair at all. Here you are, you're doing your best to keep people alive, and our leadership at that time is doing everything not to make that happen. So I mean, how the hell? How I mean, you're totally excused for being stressed and for having mental health issues and for PTSD, because you're expecting to be backed up by the government. You're supposed to be backed up by leadership. You know,
So I'll share
and
an interesting little fact on that topic really quick. So I left my job, right, because of stress. Now, let me just add one more little tidbit just so you understand. I had to buy a $900 mouth guard because at night from stress from my job, I clenched my teeth so hard I was popping fillings out, right? So I ended up leaving my job. I tried the unemployment route just for a little bit of assistance so I can get myself on, my feet set, because right now I'm actually teaching myself computer coding as well on top of doing all the video stuff, right? I got denied. And the reason was, and I had to tell them why. And they said, was your job stressful? And I shared with them on Mother's Day, I had to walk into 2 mothers that had passed away. I had to tell a 27-year-old kid he had to stop doing compressions on his mom because she was too far gone. 4 hours later, I was in a room explaining to a guy that was married to his wife for 40 years that she was passed in the other room. And as we're leaving the house, sure enough, their son right there at the door, because he was coming over for dinner. And I had to explain to him, Massachusetts unemployment denied me because they said that they don't believe that the stress that my job caused me has anything to do with why I would leave.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely can relate to that. I had an insurance company tell me and my wife that that she needed a procedure, and it was $12,000. And their insurance company is sitting there saying, no, we're not going to pay for that. She doesn't need it. And it's like, and finally they denied it until her doctor, basically went nose to nose with theirs and said, yeah, she does. And this is the trained professional doctor, and yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I like to sit here and pretend to be outraged and alarmed and everything else, but honestly, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Well, the day I turned 14, I got my work permit, and I ended up working the following Monday. I washed dishes. I mean, I've never not worked. And especially during my job, even before the pandemic, I mean, we worked not all departments. A lot of departments have a lot of different hours, but the last 5 years I worked on a department that you worked 24-hour shifts on. And, we would do it would be my second 24-hour shift for the week, and I would be exhausted. We'd be out all night. I didn't bring any extra clothes. I didn't bring any extra food. I'd be getting ready to leave at 8 in the morning, and your chief's like, oh no, you're staying for another 16 hours. It didn't matter what kind of night you had. It didn't matter if you got sleep or not. I mean, that's what the EMS system was like before COVID. Then COVID hit, and it's like, now there's no first responders. There's no paramedics anymore. In the early 2000s when the war started, people, some people were joining the military, but for a minute there was this pushback of there was a lull because people well, if I sign up, I'm going. That's kind of how the pandemic was. Who wanted to pay $15,000 to go to school for 2 years to become a paramedic, to come out and make $15 an hour? I don't know if I mentioned that either. The average starting salary for a paramedic was $15 an hour in this area, $15 to $17 an hour if you got into a decent company to deal with all this stuff. And then you work your way up over the years, and then you start making, $22, $23 an hour, and you think you're doing so great. And it's it takes a toll on you. It really, really does. And, it's hard. I brought up, there's no assistance. There's no mandatory counseling, which if you're a cop, if you're a firefighter or a first responder, there should be mandatory counseling. You should have to talk to somebody once a month, no matter what. Come on.
I have friends here where I live at. They're all journalists, and I had discussions with them, and I watched them, do the news, and here they are. They're on camera. They're covering all these horrible stories, here we are at the latest crime scene. I always, and it's funny because like social media sometimes gives a lot more insight to people than they realize. And you're sitting there and you're watching some of these reporters that on their social media, and all of a sudden you start noticing that a lot of their pictures or whatnot, they're drinking. You know, I, I'm relaxing here with a bottle of, the glass of wine, or and next thing you know, but you start noticing like there's a lot of those pictures going on, because and it's just like how does a journalist or a firefighter, how do they de-stress? How do you to unload? I mean, I know some people throw themselves into their other work or their hobbies or whatnot, but you're right. It's you can only go so far, before you break, or you start self-medicating, or you become self-destructive. And your friend
And those are
Captain
all
Eric is
huge
here.
problems in the service right now that they don't want to talk about, that they don't want to address.
I think this is Captain Eric. I think is your friend. He's
Hey,
mentioned.
Eric, what's up, man?
Shout out to first responders. Thank you, Josh. And absolutely ridiculously underpaid. So did that after that? Is that one of the reasons why you also wanted to try to strike out on your own? It was we wanted to get away from the wear and tear and stress of paramedic and firefighter. So you decided to do something more creative, something a little bit more uplifting. Is that
Yeah,
one?
well, again, like my job. So again, I don't want to come across as ungrateful, like I'm complaining about it, because any, man, woman, or other out there that right now is risking their lives and their safety to protect us, it's a wonderful thing, and we need more people like that. But for me, it got to the point where I had seen in my job enough. Like, we live one life, and it is way too short. I just, not to just talk about paramedicine the whole time, but I transported this guy. 4 months after he retired, he ended up with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And it sucked because I transported this guy for like 9 months until he finally passed. And he, the first few times I picked him up, like, anger was certainly like, you have the stages of death and grief, anger, denial, bargaining, things like that. And he was very angry. And he was like, my whole life, I saved up, I did what I was supposed to do. I banked all my hours at work, and like, he had all this money and now he really had nothing to do with it. That's just one story out of a million that I've seen, with the experiences that I've got. So I'm so thankful for what I've got. But that kind of made me realize, like, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We all think we are, but look at exactly what this pandemic did. Like, I think it put it in perspective for a lot of people, that it's like, we certainly have to plan for the future. Like, I'm not going to be irresponsible, but at the same time, like, when I'm lying on my deathbed, again, like, how much money I made last year is really not going to matter. Like, I want to be a better husband to my wife. Like, when she comes home, I want to have a smile on my face. Like, I want to be a better friend to my buddies. Like, I want to be the person that when somebody's struggling, they can come and talk to me, and unfortunately, being at the job, I just wasn't that person anymore. And I see that somebody asked if I write. I do write, and I wrote a short film called Finnerman's Conundrum, which you can see on my channel. And I actually wrote that when I was in the thick of my stuff. So I kind of mentioned earlier, I was never homicidal or suicidal, but I hit a point in October where I was struggling on the ambulance so much, and I was just so depressed that I ended up going to a program that is for first responders, paramedics, military, called the Frontline Foundations. And it was a 2-week kind of like mental health retreat where I got to go and learn some techniques, basically some breathing and mindfulness, meditative movements, and things like that. And it was when I was there that I realized, like, I really needed to make a change, and I wasn't going to be able to just kind of put a Band-Aid on it. And I needed to take that leap. And like I said, life's short. I just feel like the universe kind of had some signs for me that lined up. And, I've got an unbelievably supporting wife and family. And I'm just in a spot where I have the opportunity to at least shoot my shot and chase my dream for a little bit. And I just want to do it. So.
Um, what was did you you walked onto your first set, and you got that, and you got the fever, so to speak. Um, did you talk to anybody? Did you bounce off the idea of actually opening up running scared? Did you bounce that idea off of anybody other than your wife? And I mean, what kind of feedback did you get when you told people that you were thinking about opening your own studio?
Yeah, well, so running scared was kind of a little business for me. I've been shooting weddings and doing a lot on the side when I was a firefighter and paramedic and stuff like that. So I was building Running Scared, and I chose the name because it was a hobby, and I was shooting, independent horror stuff that I just wanted to shoot. I didn't know it was going to grow into the business that it did, or else I probably would have chose a different name because, when I shoot somebody's wedding, I'm like, "Hi, I'm Josh from Running Scared Motion Pictures. Like, can I make your day more beautiful today?"
Yeah.
But the family and like everybody that I talked to, like, it was funny because a good buddy of mine, Matt Bianchi, like, I don't want to get emotional over this, but like he walked into the office when I had first finished it, and he had said to me, he sat down and he's like, he's like, "I'm really glad you got off the ambulance." And he's like, "Can you finish a spot?" He goes, "Because I really think, you being on the ambulance all those years was like slowing you down from this." And I don't know, like, to have somebody that has like that much faith in you, like, it meant a lot to me, So like, I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see the how you would be. That would. So especially if you're passionate about it, I think when people pick it up, they see you sitting on your off time, at the station, and they see you reading a book about cameras or lighting or filmmaking. They see that's your passion. That's what you're really into. I think it's easy for a lot of people to see that and to be in a position to offer an opinion. It's like you know, if you came up to me and I had observed that and you came up to me and said, "What do you think?" I was with there. I would probably sit there and say, "Well, based on what I see from what you've done, this is something you really want to do, and I'm fully supportive of it. I think it's something if that's what you want to do, then you should do it." I mean, but if you just come off there and I don't ever see you do anything, or you've never talked about it, I've never overheard a conversation or anything like that, and you came to me and said, "Well, what do you think?" I would sit there and say, "Well, what have you done? What kind of research have you done into it? What have you done to prepare yourself to make that next step? I mean, is this something that you're 100% sure? Because I have never heard you talk about it or express interest." And I hate to sit there and say, "Yeah, go for it." And then, and maybe you don't really know what you're getting into. You don't want to quit and take that leap unless you know where you're going to land.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm glad I'm in a spot where, again, I just have the opportunity to at least try my shot, So someday when I'm laying on my deathbed, I can look back and be like, "Hey, I got to do it." It's a lot of people don't even get that. So
Yep, you're right. So what's going on? I mean, now that you worked your first set, now you came off your first set, you were jazzed, I'm sure. Here you are working with some people you've seen on screen before. I mean, were you a big movie fan growing up? I mean, were you, I mean, was that something you liked doing? I mean, did you watch a lot of films, in the station, or, did you have any idea this is something you wanted to do as far as a studio goes? Because photography is one thing, but a movie studio is a different thing.
yeah. Well, so I think, like you said, I came off the movie set and then I was really inspired. I wanted to, shoot something on my own. So I actually set out and I shot my first short film, quote unquote, on my own, called The Unlucky Ones. And it's about 10 minutes long and it's on my YouTube channel. And I got a cool car for it. And we had some really good makeup and special effects. And I was in way over my head. And if it wasn't for the director, Steven Six Josie, there to help me out, to be honest, I probably wouldn't have been able to finish the project. He saw I was struggling. He kind of took some of the cast, pulled them aside, got them like ready to go for the scenes coming up, and really kind of bailed me out. But it was that experience that I was kind of like, again, I like to fail. It gives me something to shoot for. It's like, I feel like if you're not failing, you're not pushing yourself enough. So
Right.
when that happened to me, like, that's when I got that, like, that's when I think I started to get the bug. Like, no, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this better. And then what's actually really cool is my next short film we shot was called He Is No Man, which was written by this guy, Don Noble, who I just happened to meet on the internet because he saw The Unlucky Ones and he sent me a script. And
Oh, wow. Now,
yeah,
what did you think when you was that your first script that someone sent you?
yeah, so I was actually really worried about putting The Unlucky Ones on like the internet and stuff because it wasn't complete. It wasn't great. I had to make a lot of concessions and just change things. But at the end of the day, I was like, it's my first short. Like, I don't care. And to be honest, it actually received like pretty good feedback and people were genuinely nice about it. Um, and that was nice because you know how the internet can be. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes I worry about things I post. Like, I have ADHD. Things can come out of my mouth like without me thinking about it, and they just come across the wrong way. I can't tell you the amount of times a day I stick my foot in my mouth. So I'm always worried about stuff like that too. But so here I am. I want this challenge, and now I get this script, and I actually still talk to Don today. What's really cool is I shot He Is No Man, I think 3 years ago. We're getting ready. I'm gonna shoot a reboot where I'm gonna tie in some of the old footage because I have it all. I'm gonna do like a reboot for it with what I know now, my lighting and all my stuff now, and I think it's going to be really, really cool. So we're pretty excited about that project.
Well, we actually have a filmmaker in the chat, Chadwick Whitmer. And if you haven't been, you can connect with him. I would recommend you do. He's a filmmaker. He's made several shorts himself, and I can tell you, and the chat knows this too. But I'm a huge advocate for short films. I think short films are exactly what filmmakers need to do to make better. Like you said, I mean, that's what the medium is best for. It's a teaching tool. That's exactly what it is. A short film is a teaching tool.
Yeah, you're shooting scenes of a feature film. Like that's really what you're doing. Every scene you shoot, you're just practicing.
And I agree. I think if you just come out there and you shoot it and you work it, I mean, I think it's exactly, it's like you said, it comes across as a little rough or this and that. It's supposed to be because you're learning, and the fact that you're learning DIY, it's sort of punk rock type of learning because you're not going to film school to learn what you learned. You learn it all by yourself. So that added grittiness to it actually enhances it. Like when you see someone who's self-taught, like Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez taught himself how to use a digital camera. He didn't know nothing. He knew nothing about it other than what they told him what it was and what it could do. But he didn't
Rebel Without a Crew. I read his book. That was part of my filmmaking growth and journey.
Yeah. So you can relate to that, like he didn't have any formal training either. And yet here he is, one of the most successful filmmakers working today. So I love the short film format. I think it's supposed to do exactly what it was supposed to, and it makes you a better filmmaker. Now, is that something that you want to do yourself? I mean, is that the ultimate goal? Is to use Running Man to basically make your own features, and get to the point where you're financing and funding your own projects and putting them out, or are you still going to be a full service studio for, if I want to bring my movie and I want you to edit it, are you still going to keep that aspect of running scared?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm somebody I would never shut down any avenue. I mean, obviously I have the dream of being a full-time filmmaker someday and making films. Right now I'm 67 pages into a feature film. The goal would be to shoot a no-budget feature film in the next few coming months. What I'm hoping is after I shoot the He Is No Man reboot, which we're probably going to wrap up in about a month, I just want to use all those technical skills. I brought a few new people under Running Scared, Captain Eric being one of them. I've got a makeup and special effects guy now, Michael Norman. He's an actor, director too. I mean, he does a million things. I got this kid, Peyton Sidebottom, he's hungry. He wants to work. He's a good cinematographer already for his own right. Bill DeForge shows up. He's been helping out a ton. My buddy Rob White does some music and scoring for us. So I've really been trying to cultivate a good group of people now. I've got actors and actresses that I like working with. So my plan is this next little block of work that I put out is to show people, here's what I can do. Now, if I just had some more resources, let me run with it. If it goes good, I'm going to try to use He Is No Man to show people again what I can do. And I want to try to crowdfund $5,000 to shoot the feature. And if I can do that, that'll be the goal. And that's kind of the big dream. I'm going to keep always making short films and things like that because I just love it. And that's where my heart and my passion's at. And if the feature film goes well, and if I can at least recoup the money back to do another one, I have up here this scarecrow. It might be kind of hard to see because of the lighting here, but I have another feature film that I'm about 50 pages through with that guy involved. So I already have my second film that I'd be getting ready to shoot out. And what I would hope is I could get a company or, a business to throw up some money and have some faith in me, or I can get some, distribution on the back end or something. But, I'm going to do that. But here, like I said, I do offer a lot. If you're an actor or actress and you want to, film your spot for an audition and you don't want to do it on your cell phone, I have the studio here. I can come to you for very little money. You know, I'll do some headshots. You can do your lines here. I have a Sennheiser MKH416 microphone that goes into a Zoom F4. I have 2 Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4Ks with the full Rokinon Cinema Prime lenses. I could talk to you about lighting forever. I mean, I've got the gear. Like, we can make your stuff amazing. I'm working with this awesome band called Hero and the Horror. They're phenomenal. I did a music video with them, and they're talking with me about doing another music video. I don't want to be your traditional business. Like, I don't want to be well, here's my price guide and you should, like, I don't know, tell me what you want to do. Like, we're making art. Like, I want to make something better. Like, even when I shoot weddings, I talk to the bride and groom ahead of time. Like, I want to hear their voice. I want to hear how they talk to each other. I want to get their style. Like, I don't want to be a cookie cutter, you know, turnout product ever. Like, I always want to bring art into whatever I'm doing. Like, that's why I'm doing this, you know? So yeah, I mean, I'm going to shoot my shots with the big dreams and try to make films, but you know, I'll always want to be here for the little guy too. And you know, I try to spend enough time and effort into helping like nonprofits and charities and stuff like that. It's a little way to kind of give back. I started to kind of answer. Is it Chadwick? Is that how you say it?
Yes, Chadwick.
I started to answer his question. Hey, Chadwick, nice to meet you, man. Yeah, reach out. I'd love to talk to you more. But I wrote Finnerman's Conundrum, you know, when I was in the lowest of the low at my time. And I think that, you know, there's artists that Kurt Cobain, like he wrote music when he was low and struggling. I mean, I think that there's art in that too. I mean, I try to take the beauty in everything now and try to turn the negatives into the positives. Like I got really into stoicism, like in my journey, like, you know, after I kind of stumbled there in EMS, and, you know, we can't control what happens. We can only control how we respond. You know, and there's not a truer thing that's ever been said, man. And it's like, I'm somebody, I like to drag my feet, and I want to change the world and I want to make a difference, but like, sometimes you can't, and just like accepting that and taking a deep breath and taking a step back is good too. So like I said, yeah, I got the big dreams, but I want to be realistic and stay grounded too.
Have you ever have any ideas of shooting a creature feature?
Oh, either the Scarecrow one, we're going to do that. We got the feature film right now. It's a zombie. Well, it's I don't want to say it's a zombie movie because it's really not. It's got a zombie in it, but we've got some stuff there. But yeah, I actually, because I have Michael Norman, I mean, that kid is incredible with what he can do. I think this next block of work, I think some people are going to see what we're doing. And like I said, I've got a short film in a film festival right now. That next month we'll be going to the East Hampton Film Festival. The film I submitted is called Eddie. It's like just a short little film I did. It's kind of a parallel universe of Ed Gein, the serial killer. I think if we place there, we get something. I think I'm going to start making some noise. And like I said, you're going to hear a lot from Running Scared coming out, man. I'm going to hit the fences swinging. Like I'm
I think the time is perfect. I mean, you, as far as, you know, and crowdsourcing is a good idea too. It sounds to me like I have a feeling you would, you know, I don't think you would have any problem crowdsourcing. I think you would probably raise your 5,000 really quick. Hey John, how are you, sir? TJ, how are you? I want to go back up because Eric said something and I want to address it, or at least repeat it, because I think it says here, yeah. He says too many people turn their back on their dreams or just stare at them from afar for their entire life. It's better to be running towards your dreams, even if you're running scared. And that's really,
I love it. I am. There's days, I'll be honest, there's times where I'm laying there in bed trying to, you know, fall asleep, and I'm like, man, like I got to book a wedding. I got to book something. But like, I don't know, like, you know, I was making $67,000 a year in the fire department. It's all open, you know, all the numbers out there. And it's like, thought I had made it. I thought I was doing so good. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to be happy. Like, anybody watching this, forget about film today. Hug your wife, hug your husband, call your mom, your dad, tell them you love them. Like, honestly, like, you know, there's enough negativity out there. And I could have went down that path. I feel, you know, I had a lot of things happen, and I was negative for a little while. And that's not who I want to be. That's not what the world needs. Like,
do you think I think you probably meant to say you're just being human more than just saying you're being negative.
Yeah, probably, right? Well, it's hard, man. You know, I stumble. I'm somebody. It's called snowballing. You know, it's like I can get in that negative funk, and it's like it's one of those little things, and I can just make it worse and worse over time. And I got to just really work hard on letting things go. It's like, it's so stupid. My wife's a kindergarten teacher, right? And she's got these things. She talks about these baskets. There's 3 baskets in front of you. Never acceptable, sometimes acceptable, always acceptable. Like, big deal, little deal. Like, and if something happens that gets you irritated, you got to decide. Like, you can't put everything in one basket. So like, I do that. It's like so stupid, but it's like, I don't need to stress or worry about that. And I throw it out because like, little deal, right?
Right. I take it you're very, I bet I'm sure you're very detail oriented too. I mean, I want to, I'm going to come back to that. But I want to talk a little bit about the wedding aspect of things. How hard is it to do a wedding? How hard is it as a wedding photographer? How hard is it?
So how hard a wedding is comes down to the type of person you are. I mean, you're preserving somebody's one of their most important days they're ever going to have in their life. And if you're not capable of doing a good job at that, you just shouldn't do it. I mean, I have weddings I've seen that have been, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 that are like, it's a camera on a tripod that somebody pressed record for 10 minutes at this spot, moved it to this spot and did the same thing. Like, that's irresponsible as a filmmaker, as a wedding, cinematographer. Like, I just don't like that. When you're shooting a wedding, a bride walks down the aisle one time. Like, that's it. There's no redos. There's no do-overs. And I'll tell you, the lighting is always bad. Uncle Tommy, who's in front of you with his iPhone, who you explain to 10 times, like, don't stand up in front of me, I'm the video guy. He's going to do it as soon as she starts walking down the aisle. Like, you got to be prepared for it. But again, if you're not somebody that can go with the flow of things and change on the fly, certainly wedding filmmaking is not going to be for you. When you shoot like a movie or a short film, there are do-overs and you can be a little bit more detail oriented and thematic about it. But like, it's weird because I'm somebody that I go a lot on feeling. Like, I really do. As you could probably tell by the way I talk and the way I act, like I have big emotions, I trust them. I follow them in my filmmaking journey and my art journey. But at the same time, because my brain races and I have a million things going on at the same time, I can keep a lot of the technical aspects down to where I need to, and then I just try to figure out what I think is important, what I need to hold on to, and where I can kind of let my gut guide me a little bit,
Sure. Have you been hired to shoot somebody else's project? I mean, as far as filmmaking goes, has someone come to you and said, I want you to, I mean, do you consider cinematography to be one of your strengths?
To be honest, I would say, like, as a cinematographer and as an editor, those are my strongest strengths. When you first learn how to do this, I mean, you need a camera and then you're the one that has to shoot and learn how to edit, So I kind of feel like that's where I grew the most. I learned how to do color correction as kind of a byproduct because I had to. I love lighting. I put a lot of effort and time into my lighting design and how I light things. I think that's very important to how your final overall image and aesthetic looks. So yeah, I've had people that have hired me to come on and just do lighting for them because I do have the good microphone and boom pole. I've had guys hire me just to run audio for them. I've had guys hire me to shoot behind the scenes for them. Yeah, and what's cool is I've worked with the same people multiple times, and I feel like that's a good sign that you're doing something right. When people call you back. So I've enjoyed my time.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever? Have you ever been asked for your input? I mean, people must think, they say, well, you run in the studio, and I want you to help me, could you help me shoot my short or my feature? You ever had any directors come up to you and say, how would you shoot this shot? And if so, what do you usually say? Do you say anything?
Yeah. Carlos Seguro, he owns Forever Los Films. He is in the process of making his first feature film now. It's pretty much shot. He lives in Florida. He's from like 2 towns over from where I am. We've connected over the last like 3 years now. He's sent me a ton of his work. I've seen early edits. I've given him feedback and stuff like that. Like, oh, absolutely. I'll tell you, I think the reason people will come to me for feedback is because here's how I look at feedback. When I ask my friends or family, when I show them a piece and I'm like, hey, how was this? And they're like, oh, it was great. I loved it. That's okay. But honestly, that's the worst thing that you can do for someone. You didn't give me anything to strive for. You didn't give me any other ways to think about it. You didn't give me anything. What I love is
you can't ask friends and family for their advice because you're always going to get it's awesome. You need to go to your peers. You got to go to your peer group and sit there and say, like your friend in Florida, and sit there and say, well, what do you think about it? Because
Yeah, you
you
held
really
that
get
cut
honest.
too long. The pacing's not right. You should attract it. Absolutely. And it's like, you got to know who you're talking to and how you can talk to them. But like, I'll give honest feedback because again, like I would never give somebody feedback to try to be like, oh, I'm better than you or this idea is better. It's just like, there's certain things in filmmaking that like Hollywood's been making movies for a long time, right? Like they've taught us how to watch movies and sometimes we don't even realize it. And it's like, you can be bold and you can try different things, but sometimes there's just technical things you need to do right. And if they're not done right, they don't read right. And it's like even your friends and family won't recognize that. They won't understand why the shot doesn't feel right, but it doesn't feel right. But a fellow filmmaker can break it down and explain to you, like, oh no, you broke the 180 rule here. Like, look at this. Like, this was confusing. Or, you did this close-up shot when this part was like, she was talking about leaving him and it was could have been this distant shot. So yeah, no, I love giving and receiving feedback because again, like it just strives and makes you better.
I was gonna say, I bet it's easier to, I bet you, I bet your feedback to other directors is probably a lot easier and more accepted than than weddings when you tell the groom and the bride, listen, coming down there or sitting underneath that tree, you're gonna have really poor lighting. I'm gonna suggest that you not do that and maybe come down this way instead. And there isn't sitting there looking at you like, oh no, we're gonna do it that way. I
Yeah.
mean, it must be hard. That must be a lot harder to do. They must be a lot harder to deal with than a fellow filmmaker or an actor. Um, let's talk a little bit about that too, because obviously in your career there's many aspects, many virtues you had and you had to have in order to be a good one, and that is patience. Um, how do you have you ever had to deal with like when you're shooting a video or you're shooting a short film, have you ever had to take someone aside and explain why you're doing what you're doing, even though they might want something else? They say, well, they want to shoot it this way, but better for them that it won't really work. So is it really hard to walk up to the person who has a mindset on what they're going to do and sit there and say, I really, can we do something here? Can we shoot it both ways? And that way I can show you, what I'm thinking, versus what you want to do. Because I think if you see it, you might agree with me. Is it
Yeah.
easy? Has it been easy to deal with clients uh, and peers that in that respect, or are they pretty much adamant on what they want to do and they just want you to shoot it the way they want it shot?
Yeah, so that's kind of there's two answers to this, I guess, because it's different with clients than I guess with like other filmmakers, other creatives. With clients, I'll be honest, like right now, wedding cinematography is kind of in a unique place because people still don't really know what to expect at a video. They'll see the guy with the camera and they know exactly, oh, take a picture of me and my mom and my like they know. They see me with my rig and they're kind of like, what are you doing? Like, are you doing pictures? I'm like, no, I'm doing video. So it's like, it's nice because they don't bother me as much. So like when I shoot, I just shoot a ton of stuff. And again, I try to figure out a little bit about the people and to try to guess what they would like in the style. And I talk to them ahead of time and I try to get it right. And then I give them the first edit. And then that's where I let them kind of dial it down and get a little bit more creative. I tell them I want a detailed list at 1 minute and 37 seconds. You use this clip. I didn't like it. At 2 minutes and 27 seconds, you started with this song. The song sucks, change, things like that. I break it down. So when it's my input, like it's just kind of, I've showed them what I thought my best vision was. And if they didn't like it, if they want something different, then I'll adjust. So I don't really have to have that conversation with them. When it comes to the creative types, like with the people that are part of Running Scared, what I do is like, we're all a team here. When Mike wants to shoot and direct one of his short films, he can pull any one of us. He can be like, Josh, I want you just on lighting today. Matt, you're going to run the camera. Rob, you're going to run boom pole. Like, I just kind of, I want to have all my gear fully accessible to them too, so they can grow and they can have their experiences with it too. Because I
Right.
do have, I guess, a little bit more experience on the technical side. Like I will have people over like last winter, like when COVID was like safe at times, we did testing and masks and stuff. I had people come over, like usually one male, one female actor and actress. We'd sit down and I would have them do lines. They would practice lines from scripts that I liked. I would set up different lighting setups. I would try different lenses. I was setting up the Roger Deakins Cove lighting using an unbleached muslin screen and then 3 Fresnels bouncing back off of the lighting. Meanwhile, looking at my camera on the monitor while I'm moving the light to see what's working, what's not working. Like, that's what I do. That's what I like. So people that work with me, they know how my brain works and they know that this is how I operate. So when they hear that stuff from me, with my guys, I'll say, we'll 100% shoot it the way you want, but let's also shoot it this way. Like you just said, like you hit the nail on the head. And then when we sit down at editing, we pull them up side by side. And like what happens a lot of times, and even for me too, like Matt will give me a lot of critiques towards my work. And at first I'm like, no, I still like my original vision. But then I'll watch it more and more. And then the other one creeps in, and you realize that they were right because they can see it from that 10,000-foot view, you know?
Right. Yeah. Outside the box, you know,
Yep.
you're too close to it. So you need someone outside.
I've learned when my friends tell me that stuff, though, I embrace it. I mean, even when I shot He Is No Man the first time 3 years ago, Matt brought up like 3 or 4 shots that were just straight up better than what I had. Like, I think if you're not, I mean, not everybody can, you know, throw all their ideas, but there's times where you need to listen to people. You know, it's you can be better than the sum of your parts if you use all the tools that you have available to you, you know?
Your friend Obi-Wan Kenobi is in the house.
That's my buddy Joe. He's a military vet too. He streams over on Twitch. He does a lot for charity.
I just want to say hello to him. Hello, Joe. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. You know, there's one thing that I have never really talked to anybody about. I'm sure people in the chat will probably want to know about a little bit about this too. How do you approach editing? Editing seems to be such an it's we hear the word, but I don't know, really think we understand exactly how editing works. Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. How many hours do we have? No, so I'll share some of my experiences and talk a little bit about editing. When I first started, I was a Premiere guy. I had Premiere, I had After Effects because that's just at the time kind of what you used. I'm a Windows guy as well. I don't use Mac, so I'll just throw that out there so people can understand, I guess. And I used Premiere for a long time, and I learned how to do stuff. And like I said, like when you first start editing, like honestly, you go on YouTube and you type in, you know, how to edit in Premiere or whatever editor you're using now, which if you're new into filmmaking, or honestly, if you're a veteran filmmaker and you're not on DaVinci Resolve, you're doing yourself a disservice. I switched over.
What's the DaVinci Resolve?
DaVinci Resolve is a complete free editing software, and it's literally the best color correction set of tools that you're going to find out there. The motion tracking is unbelievable. It's way more stable than Premiere is. If you buy any Blackmagic camera, you'll get their studio version with it, which is like their $300 paid version. And it's got more transitions and things like that. But DaVinci Resolve, it's free. Just don't download the studio version and you're going to love it. It's unbelievable. You YouTube however to edit in that editor. The first thing you need to do is you have to have a spot where you import the files that you want to work with. And once you figure that out, you dump them onto the timeline. Once you figure out how to put files in the timeline, this is your race to become the best collage editor that you can be. And again, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I hope nobody takes it that way when I say it, because you're still a filmmaker and all that. Like I'm not, not trying to take anything away, but like you're not using all the aspects. So it's like you're using music to cuts. And what you'll do at first, you're going to be happy that you got some sort of footage up there to the music. But then you're going to start listening to the beat of the music. And you're going to be like, okay, I want to do my cuts to the music. And then your editing's going to get a little bit better. So like you kind of start and it's the small steps. And then you'll do that for a while until your music is good. And then you'll start figuring out like the transitions.
So in order to get a good edit, you need the score first. I always thought the score came. I thought the score. Okay, I always thought. I don't know why. I always thought the score came like sort of like afterwards. Sort of like, okay, they're gonna get in there, they're gonna cut the movie, and then they give it to the composer, and then the composer watches the finished product, and then he makes his score fit the music, fit the scenes that he's seeing.
Yeah. So what
So it's
I'm
actually
talking about now,
reversed.
so I'm talking about like if you're not for like a film, yeah. So with a film, you would do things a little bit different than that. When I'm actually editing like a short film or something like that, what I do is I signed up for Artlist. It's a website where you can basically get music. And actually, John Sterling, who scored He Is No Man, he has like a library of a ton of music. And what I'll do is I'll use scratch tracks in my edit. So I'll take a song or a sound or something that I want to use that has the tone or the feel, because there is timing in your edit. And if you just throw it up there without any sort of reservation, unless you have somebody putting a custom piece of music to it so they can like mix it and contort it and like warp it to what you've done, it's going to be hard for them to do that. And then like music is supposed to be in time and it's supposed to be rhythmic. So if they're changing and trying to adjust to your video, it could throw them off. I start with, again, my base score. So it's something that I kind of want it to sound like. Then what I do is I'll send my, like when John does the music for my stuff, or Rob, I'll send them I'll send them two files. They'll get the file that has the temporary score that I did. That's like, hey, here's the style I'm going for. Like, keep it somewhere in this vein, but I want to see what you do with it. That's all I give them. Because again, they know music better than I do. I'm going to let them be creative with it.
Wow.
Then when it comes back, or so the second file has no score, no music at all. It's just got the audio and the Foley and all that stuff. So they'll put that into their editor. And then I know with Rob, he can actually watch the video while he doesn't like makes all his music. Then he sends me just the music files back. I put them in my editor. I watch it through a couple times with the way he scored it. And then I start my notes. And I say, hey, I like, and I can change a lot of things too, because I've got a background in recording a little bit. I've worked with Cubase and Pro Tools and stuff. I worked at a music shop for a few years when I was younger. And like I understand gating and compression and all that stuff. I do a lot of my own Foley sound here. I mic my own stuff up and I do a lot of that stuff as well. So like, you know, basically Rob does like the music and the scoring. Like I don't do the design. I'm not like making music. I'm not using synth. He'll pick up a guitar. He'll play a guitar. He'll sit on a drum set, play a drum set. He'll do a MIDI program and make the music that way. You know, and then
Wow.
we
Yeah,
tweak it from there.
that's fascinating. It really is. I had no idea. I was always curious to see, because you hear that, and like and I know that you can run it through many times. You have the writers, the director's cut, then the producer's cut, then the executive producer cut. You can have all these people. They all have their fingers in the pot stirring. Uh, and I just wondered. I always wondered how do they decide how do they decide how do you edit a movie? I mean, it's like you sit there and you watch the scene, and how do you know when to sit there and snip off a second here or 3 seconds here, or or add something here or move something around? I mean, that's a lot of faith to give somebody. You spent all that time shooting your film, and you turn around and you give your baby to some editor. That's a lot. That takes a lot. That's going to take a lot of faith.
Yeah. Well, and then where I'm at now, I shoot all my audio separate. It doesn't go into my camera. So then I have to sync all my audio before I even start editing. And then you get everything cut and then you get into color correction. And again, like, it's crazy because when you see a movie, at the end of a movie, when you watch all those names, like there's a reason for that. I mean, filmmaking has a lot of aspects to it. And it's, every part of it takes a lot to master or to get good at.
Oh no, you're right. I mean, you watch one of those big Hollywood production movies, like a superhero movie or whatnot. I mean, you're seeing, you're literally can see a couple hundred or 200-300 people's name run by there, and they're all working on it. But to me, what's more impressive, it's not so much something like the Avengers. It's something like smaller where you don't have the money and you still got to do the same thing. You still got to do the same thing they're doing, except they got millions of dollars and a massive team. And here you are, you just got you and maybe a couple of other people. So the pressure is more on you, to make it right, because there's no, there's no huge department heads or stuff like that. It's just, yeah, yeah. How do you, now that's something you do within yourself, right? Let's say you're editing your own movie. But let's go one again. Let's say you get hired to edit a movie. I mean, do you allow the filmmaker who's asking, hired you, do you allow them to sit in with you to make your cut, or
Absolutely. So over on my editing bay, I've got a 65, a 43, and then a 27 that's color corrected with the Blackmagic Direct out so we can sit there on my 3 monitors. And again, usually I'll rough it out. I'll cut it to the script. So at least when they show up, they're not sitting there wasting time watching me just sync audio and do the nonsense. But once I get a cut that they can look in and sit in, that's what we do. We sit down for hours and hours and hours, and we comb through every footage. And like you brought up earlier, like, how do you know when to cut? Sometimes, like, you just have to do it. You feel it. You experience it. When you are a new filmmaker, everything's going to be way too long. Your pacing is going to be terrible. And that's not your fault. That's what everybody does. It's a skill that you have to learn and develop. And, it's got to be along the same like mindset of like, it's really hard because, you've probably heard the saying in filmmaking, like, kill your darlings. Sometimes you'll shoot the greatest shot or the greatest scene you've ever done, and it doesn't fit the overall like betterment of the picture, and you have to cut it. And it's like really hard. And I think a lot of people tend to leave some of their scenes, they let them linger because they're proud of the way it looks and they kind of want to keep it up there for a minute. But you have to kind of separate yourself from like the art and pull yourself into like the art of the performance and the timing and the pacing of that. And again, like, we've all watched movies our whole lives. Like if you sit down and you watch that something doesn't feel right, like, it doesn't feel right. So then it's just about trying to figure it out. Is it a quicker cut? Is it a slower cut? And again, like there's so much psychology that goes into every ounce of it too. You don't just shoot a medium shot for a medium shot, or you don't pan right. Like everything's motivated. Everything has a reason. Everything's, leading you to feel or interpret something a certain way. And you have to understand that. And a lot of people don't pay attention to the psychology behind filmmaking. They'll shoot a wide shot where somebody's talking about how like their world's been collapsing and they're having a hard time. You're supposed to shoot that tight because it shows like the world's collapsing.
Right.
Even the way you frame somebody. Perfect example. Check this out. If I frame somebody where they're like this is representing, I don't know, like I'm not worried about what's behind me. I'm looking forward. But if we film me and we frame me where I can't really see myself, where I'm more forward like this, and I can't see what's in front of me, that's showing the viewer like I'm getting ready for a struggle. I can't see what's ahead of me. I'm getting ready to go on a journey. So you see, I mean, every single shot and anything that's worth its weight, we could sit there and figure out why they did things that certain way or why it was motivated that way. So it's not just about figuring all out on your own. I mean, there are some reasons you do things, but then there's the artistic style where you can throw caution to the wind and just do whatever you want and try to make it look good.
Right. Right. Now, among another one of your services we touched on briefly, you also do composing as well. Now, you say yourself that you don't necessarily do the composing, but you have somebody in house that does.
Rob and John, yeah.
Now, how do you, after the editing is over? Now you get the finished film to the composer. Do you have any input on that at all, or you just totally 100% trust what they're going to come up with?
Rob and John, they both know music so much better than I do. Again, I give them something to go off of, and I trust that they're going to get it close enough that we can kind of work it out from where it is. And we've never not done that. I'll be honest, like a lot of times, like when I finish a project, it might not be exactly the way I like envisioned it to the T, but I still like it. I mean, you're going to change things. Like sometimes I'm like, in the script, I wrote it a certain way, but then when I actually shot it, like, I don't know, the room I was in, there was a different shot I could get, or I realized at the time, the way the scene was going, I could hit some different key points and change it. It's like, you got to be willing to go with the flow and let the film kind of also adapt a little bit in the editing phase too. But I just trust those guys. I have the faith and we work on it. But like when we write too, so they kind of know, like, so I write a lot with Rob as well. So he does scoring and we write. When we write, we always pick certain music to listen to. He's big into like Lynch stuff, like Twin Peaks. Like we listen to the soundtrack to that a lot while we write. Or, there's John Carpenter has something called the Lost Tracks on Spotify. It's awesome. It's a bunch of music that you'd hear out of like the Halloween soundtrack, like that kind of like eerie, ominous, like 80s horror. We'll listen to a ton of that when we write. So especially for things that I've done, we've written it to a theme, to a feeling, to a style that, you know, Rob's also heard and listened to. So he's got that going into it. And we talk about it too. You know, we'll come up with a scene where we're like, oh man, I could see the score coming in, you know, the rumbling of the house sounds like this, and then this riser comes in here, and you'll go into something that sounds like this. And we write it down, and then he takes it back to his laboratory and makes magic.
Wow, that is so it's awesome.
On my
You
YouTube channel, we have a video. It's just a short video. It was recording sound where it actually shows us. We brought in gravel into my garage, and I recorded footsteps walking while we were watching. It was more for Foley sound, but you can see like Rob at the computer doing some stuff there. So if anybody really cares about how sound was done, like there's kind of a cool little video to see some behind the scenes and how it's done there too.
Now, do you use practical effects and makeup? Do you have that? Do you have that within in-house as well at running scare motion pictures? Do you have that? Do you have a little effects department as well?
I am unbelievably fortunate because I have Michael Norman. He's unbelievable. He made the scarecrow mask up there. He's basically, if I need any makeup and special effects, I did a short film called Knock Knock where I had done a effect where this guy puts his thumbs through somebody else's eyes. He built up the prosthetics, did all that. If it can be done practical, I want to do it practical 100% without a doubt. You know, I'm big into like Adam Green that did Hatchet and stuff like that. So I prefer practical. I will do CGI. Coming up in He Is No Man, there's a mirror shot where I'm just going to have to do some CGI stuff. I've done like whited out eye effects and some other things in CGI, but you know, the saying fix it in post is it sucks because sometimes when you get there and like that's your final measure, like at least if I've tried contacts or something practical and it didn't work out the way I thought, I have VFX to fall back on. But if you plan just on VFX, like I'm certainly not good enough to make VFX work. So we're practical people here if we can be.
Wow, that is so cool. Um, what do you? I mean, what's? Yeah, I mean, you mentioned talk a little bit about the Scarecrow movie. Now, did you wrote that, right? So, what's your writing process like? Where did you get the idea of making a Scarecrow movie? And please, whatever you do, I only have one request. If you for your Scarecrow movie, please show your Scarecrow.
Yeah, right. We
Please
will.
show
We
that.
will. I'm very proud of the Scarecrow. I actually, yeah. Well, okay. So there's a few things you asked here. So yeah, I'll talk about my writing process. Like I said, so for me, I look for inspiration anywhere. I'll be honest. I wrote one of my short films on my YouTube channel. It's called drawing a blank right now. Man. Oh, Mick, which stands for Man in Car. And I'll be honest, I had a nightmare one night where I had a dream that was similar to this short film. And I had woken up and I was like, man, like it made me feel like I was like kind of scared, a little unsettled. And I was like, I want to do something with this. So I literally immediately right there came downstairs, sat down, and I started writing. I changed it up a little bit. Like I got my first draft and then I made it better. Like I improved it from my dream, but that's how I started with that. The feature film that I'm currently like close to being done with, I literally took I took an actor and an actress that I really liked. I took Mike, my makeup and special effects guy, and like a couple other people from Running Scared, and I put them in a Facebook chat. I didn't even say anything. I made a poll and I said like sci-fi, romance, comedy, a few things or whatever. They just started voting. And then I just asked a few questions, and literally with what they came up with and voted on, they didn't even know what they were like voting on or saying. I sat down, and the first day I wrote 22 pages. I set out to shoot a short or to write a short film that we were going to be able to like work on together based off their criteria, but it just turned into something more. And now me and Matt, one of my DPs, Matt Bianchi, we've been writing probably like twice a week. We'll get together. We spend 3-4 hours going over the script, working on it, hitting it, changing it. We've got note cards. We've got storyboards we're starting to get going. So yeah, I mean, I kind of write a few different ways. Like I said, that's where I go with the flow. I kind of let the project tell me what it's going to be. You know, if I shoot out to shoot a short and it's going to be more than that, like, I don't know. I don't have to shoot something that's 5 pages. It can be 10 if it needs to be 10, you know?
Yeah. I mean, do you feel yourself a natural writer? I mean, can you get up in the morning and go to the desk and just start cranking out cranking out pages, or do you do you work better alone? Do you work better with a writing partner?
So typically, again, my brain just goes a million miles an hour all the time. So when I get an idea in my head, now I'm to the point where I start editing the movie in my head. Like I've already got the feature film pretty much shot to the T. I mean, there's a few scenes that I don't have down exactly, but like the more experience you get and the better you get at it. Like I'll share something that's kind of embarrassing. The first time I shot, or not the first time, but like I worked on He Is No Man. When I shot that, Kim had acted in it. And there was a point where she's like, oh, well, what do you want me to do here? And I literally looked at her and in all seriousness, now mind you, I'm a director, like cinematographer on set this day. And I go, I don't know, whatever you think looks good. Because I honestly had no idea. Like I couldn't see it. Like I didn't have enough experience. Now let somebody ask me what they want. And I'm like, oh my God, I want you to walk here. I want your toe to stand here. I want you to take this. Like I just see it. You know, now it's like when I have it in my head and I sit down to edit, I'm like 90% of what I saw in my head is now what I'm seeing on screen. And it just takes time to get there.
Do you like? Are you as a director? I mean, are you familiar with improv? Have you ever taken an improv class to help understand when actors do improv? I mean, that way you're not caught unaware of it. Have you ever done that? Have you ever worked with an artist that's their strength is improv, or do you like try to have them stick strictly to the script?
Yeah, so actually, I'm glad you brought the improv thing up because my DP, Matt Bianchi, he has an Instagram channel now where he does improv tips. Improv is his passion. It's what he loves. It brings him so much joy, and he's so good at it. He's got good energy. He's snappy. He's quick. So to have him kind of on board, like, I tried to surround myself with creative people that offered different things than I had. It's like I wanted to kind of fill the gaps, and Matt was the perfect person to bring in. So he's got that, like, absolutely. When an actor does something that's a script that I wrote or I did, I'll be perfectly honest, I expect them to show up and keep it somewhat similar, but at the same time, like if somebody's done a good job with the character and really have like dive into the script, they might know the character almost more intimately or better than I do. So I'll let them kind of do whatever they want. Like I'd be like, I'll give them give me a take where you do it how you think the character would do it. And it could be wildly different than the way I wanted it, but I let them do that. And I sit on it for a second and I think about it and I say, all right, like, can I go forward with that? Does that change the tone? Does that change the mood? Matt's somebody I give a lot of leeway to because he is an improv guy. Like he'll come up with, I normally don't like people to go like way off script and like ruin a take by saying something like just that's way off the cuff. But I'll do that for Matt because he's got that style. And I'll do it for other people too. I just have to know that that's like one of their strengths. But there are people that I work with that they're more of the theater side. It's been my experience. Some of the people that have been more theater trained, they're a little bit more to the T of the script. They don't seem to deviate as much. Like they want to kind of bring that to light a little bit more. So I kind of let them ride that because that seems to be their strength, where they say the words like pretty much exactly the way that they're written. But again, I think it's about knowing the people that you're working with and being able to understand, like, hey, I'll take a deep breath and I'll listen to the other creatives around here and see if anybody else has a better idea than what I have.
Yeah, I can see that. It's obviously your studio is, I mean, it's completely full service. I mean, I really hope that and I encourage you to. I'm not saying it because I'm doing this show, but I really encourage you to share this interview out if you because I think this is I think this will help a lot of people understand how it works, because not a lot of people, everybody seems to be more focused on what's on the camera, but not enough people really are interested in what's going on behind it. And I think behind the scenes is more fascinating in so many respects.
Yeah, all the short films we've done, there's a lot of behind the scenes footage. So if you want to see how I've done things, it's funny because I've met a few people in the industry that they're secretive, like they don't want to show you things because they think, whatever. Listen, there's so many people out there that are going to consume cinema. Not like I can't produce enough people to keep everybody, or enough cinema to keep everybody satisfied. Like I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to make the dopest thing possible because I want to watch it too. So if there's anybody out there that has any questions that wants to pick my brain about anything, like reach out, like let's help each other grow. Like let's make something in this area. Like if you're building a car right now and you want to film the progress of it, I will work for a lot cheaper than you think. I get you're not going to have $2,000 in your pocket to have me come in a couple nights a week and do that. Like, I'm flexible. I want to work. I want to do this. I want to meet great people that are doing cool things along the way and have my journey too. So like you said, as far as a full stop shop goes, if you thought about anything video that I'm not doing, reach out to me. Let's do it. I'll produce it. We'll make it. Like, I want to work and I want to work hard, and I'm ready and I'm here.
Now, here's something I'm really fascinated with. So you've 15 years as a firefighter paramedic. Talk about some of the movies that when you now you're a film watcher. Have you ever watched any movies that portray you, the firefighters or paramedics? You ever just looked at the screen and say, "What the hell is that?"
So interestingly enough, you know what one of the wildest misconceptions is ever? When somebody dies and they're like, "Oh, we got to shock them, clear," and they defibrillate somebody that has the flat line. That's called asystole. You don't defibrillate a dead person. We use the electric shock to stop your heart when it's in a dangerous rhythm. It's in every TV show ever, and they do it, and I'm like, that's not what you do. Like, I would lose my card if I did that. Like, that's not good. And the other thing, like, as far as being a firefighter, when you, like, imagine this. The next time you walk into a house or a place you've never been before, imagine the second you walk in that door, closing your eyes, dropping to your hands and knees and having to navigate through that place without seeing a single thing in front of you. The visibility in houses in a fire is not like it's on TV. They literally call closets firefighter killers because you can get stuck in a closet and not even know you're in one if the door shuts, and you can go around and around and around until you can't make it out. It's scary. Like, you can't see your hand in front of your face. When you're going through the floor, you're holding onto the boot of the guy in front of you. He's got a hand against the wall, and you use a tool to sound. You're swinging it out in front of you. You're looking for bodies or property or like landmarks in the house to try to get your way around. And now with everybody doing these crazy open floor plans and all this wild construction, you have no idea what a house could look like when you walk into it. It's terrifying, man. It's like, it's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, visibility in fires is you can't see anything. And we do have the thermal imagers, the TICs they're called, but usually only one guy who's the captain in the back of the line has that. So he'll go to a doorway, he'll scan a room to make sure it's clear, and then he'll send one of us in to recover the body or whatever we're trying to get in the house. And when we're going in, he'll look through it and he'll direct us. No, left. No, go right. Up there. Yeah, that's the left. You got him. Pull him out. Like, stuff like that. But right. Yeah, that's not how TV portrays it.
Yeah, no, because I was wondering, I got to see, how a hospital works for 2.5 years, and coming back and watching that, from my experience and sitting there watching it, how it's portrayed. I sometimes I just get so pissed off and like, that's not even how it works. I mean, it's like, I know it's Hollywood, but Jesus Christ, can't you at least get 75% right? Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering how watching a Chicago fire, or Station 19. I still think probably the best one still is an old 70s show called Emergency, but that's just me. But I just watched it just seems so, I don't want to say cheesy because I'm not 100% sure about that, but
no, it is. You're right.
Oh, okay, thank you, because it just seems so like, oh my God, it's just not right. I know they're doing it for dramatic purposes, but I don't know. To me, I think sometimes they do more damage than they do positivity, because it gives the public the misperception of how things really work. Like, you're right.
Talk about too. Like, let me put this in your brain too. So right now, everybody's about affordable construction, right? So the truss roof system got really popular. The truss roof system is held together by gusset plates. Once those gusset plates heat up to a certain temperature, which is not very high, they'll start to pop off. And once one truss fails, the entire roof comes down. You can go from a single match strike to fully involve in minutes. So by the time we show up, the house usually has so much damage to it. Like, we have a saying in the fire service: we risk a lot to save a lot. We risk a little to save little. We risk nothing to save nothing. Like, if nobody's in the building anymore, we're not going in. Like, there's no reason for us to risk one of our lives to not save a human being. if we can get in, if the fire's not too bad and we can really knock it down and save the property, absolutely we're going to do that. But we're also not going to risk our lives or limbs for just property if it's doesn't have a good chance of being saved anyway,
Right, right. Uh, does anybody have questions for our guest, Josh? Go ahead and start dropping them down. I'm sure Chadwick has probably got some questions. I'm sure maybe Al probably got some questions. Thank you for coming in, Jane. Yes, he has a very positive attitude. And I agree with you about that. So yeah, so drop some comments down and or some questions down. We'll ask Josh. So talk. I'm going to go back because my buddy Hobbs will be remiss if I don't. But tell us about how you got the Scarecrow movie. Where'd you get the idea?
Oh, all right. So I live in Belchertown, Massachusetts, it's like a predominant farming community, and it's crazy. I've never seen a scarecrow here, which really sucks. And I don't know, like I've got this weird little hang up on scarecrows lately. Like I don't know what started it or whatnot, but one day Mike was over and we were hanging out, and I had mentioned to him, I'm like, hey, I think I'm gonna write like a little kind of like you mentioned, a creature feature with a scarecrow. And he's like, all right, cool, dude. Like that'll be cool. That was it, right? The
Right.
next week he comes over, he literally brings the mask over and drops it on the table. He's like, yeah, I made that. I'm like when? He's like, oh, yesterday I put a couple hours into it. I'm like, are you like, this is the sickest thing I've ever seen. Are you kidding me? And then like when he made that mask, like it inspired me, man. I can't, like it got me, it hooked me. And I sat down to write the short, and I was 50 pages deep into like, now it's going to be a feature, but it's going to make an appearance. It's been in a few small things. It's been in a music video and a couple other small things since. But yeah, I'm going to do a 3-minute vertical video little horror short. That's going to be its debut before we get there, and I'm hoping to shoot that kind of soon. So we'll get to see it.
What's your Scarecrow's name going to be? Can you share that?
Right now, we're going on the name Root. But the whole Guardians of the Galaxy Groot, like it's kind of close, and somebody already mentioned that, and it kind of took it away a little bit. So I'll have to go back to the drawing board. But the feature film, like again, it's got a scarecrow in it, but it's not. I wouldn't necessarily say it's about a scarecrow. It's more about a family and their struggle and what's going on, and then this kind of tragic, crazy event happens and changes things.
Okay, we're getting some questions. We're getting awesome. This is awesome. We're getting some questions here. Chadwick wants to know, do you have any other hobbies?
Oh man, like I said, with my brain, I've experienced a lot of things. I played tournament paintball. I did boxing for a little while. You can go on YouTube and watch some videos of me doing some boxing when I was younger. Right now, I've really dialed down. I play a little bit of Xbox and some video games, but I want to be a filmmaker. I want to edit. Like I want to sit in front of my computer and edit all day, every day. Patrick, you got to mention like what's my process and like how can I get into writing earlier? Like every morning I wake up at 5:15. My wife does a little workout and I stretch, and I put my headphones in while I stretch, and I listen to a horror narrator called B Buster, and he just narrates creepy stories that people write, and he does it like this monotone kind of like British like light way with rain sounds in the background. But I like it. I find it soothing, and I try to draw my inspiration. Then I come into the office and I sit down with my coffee. And for the next like till 8:00 in the morning, that's my creative time. If I want to jump on my Xbox and play some FIFA, I'll do that. If I was inspired and I have a story, I'll do that. If I have some editing that I want to do, I'll do that. But I do that until about 8:00. And then 8:00, I try to start like my real work day. Then I start making content that I can send out to companies and, try to put some food on the table.
Right.
But also I'm working really hard on teaching myself computer coding right now. I always wanted to learn coding. I went to a vocational school called Pathfinder, and I actually went there for computer programming, but I ended up taking 4 years of electronics. I've worked at a custom car sound place. I can install navigation units, remote starts. Like I've took electrical one. I've got an inquisitive brain. I like to learn. And, my reading level was terrible when I first graduated. But then when I went to paramedic school and I was sitting there reading words like parasympathomedic on the regular, my reading level got good and I got hooked on it. And now I can learn in a lot of different ways, and I'm just hungry.
Let's see. Your friend Eric. Let's see. He says, pick 3 living directors to have dinner with.
Living, Christopher Nolan, obviously that goes. Probably Rodriguez, just because he did the whole no budget thing, and then Ari Aster because of Hereditary. Because Hereditary to me is like is if you're talking horror, the original Exorcist or Hereditary are the 2 scariest movies ever made. And I know people are gonna disagree, and so many people hate Hereditary, but to me, it just resonated, and I thought he did such a good job. Oh, I
Yeah,
like going for the skin
I'm one
tone.
of those people.
Oh,
Honestly, I'm one of those people.
let me pull him down. We're getting some name recommendations now.
Yeah, yeah. I know you guys don't pick on me. Yeah. I'm a host. I can't say anything.
Like, look at how good that is, man. Mike is so talented, right? Like, that's crazy.
That is awesome. Doomsday, are you still in the house? John, he might not. He's also a fellow. Oh my gosh, he loves this. He loves that. I'm gonna see if he's still here. John, you're if you're still in the chat, hopefully you saw that. Hopefully you saw that killer ass mask.
There's a bunch of pictures on my Instagram too. I took some really high quality pictures, and for my birthday, my mom took a picture of the mask, and she has a friend, Dora, who Love Fish Art is her stuff. She actually hand drew a picture off that mask. That's on my Instagram too. It's actually really, really cool.
Let's see. Let's see. Jamie. Let's see. McCheese and Cakes. Welcome. I've never seen you before, but welcome. Speaking of to all the new folks, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please reach out and do so. Captain Eric and McCheese Cakes, feel free to sub to the channels, because we do interviews like this 3 times a week. So yeah, if you like to. I don't know how to promote. I don't know how to promote.
Yeah, I don't
I don't know how to promote my channel. I'm just sitting there going, yeah, sub to me. I have no idea. I'm just getting over. Jamie says she loves Hereditary. Scare the crap out of me. Okay, not an easy task. Okay, no one's teased me yet. Let's see. Eric says his name for the scarecrow should be Hay. Hay.
Yeah.
See, Jamie says thanks for giving her nightmares for tonight with the mask.
Nice.
Yeah. I think
see a few too. So I got the average page count in one sitting. For my average page count, again, it depends on how inspired I am, but I would say normally when I sit down, I write anywhere between like 5 and 8 pages.
Okay.
I typically try to think almost any story that I write, I want to be like, if I could fit this in 10 to 11 pages, what would that look like? And then I let it grow from there. I think trying to take the bite of like, hey, let's write 90 pages for a feature film is just, it's daunting. There's a lot to it, and it's scarier that way.
Yeah.
But basically, for every one page that you have that's like in scripted format ends up being about 1 minute of video on the screen. Now, that's not a hard, fast rule, but essentially, that's why 90 pages is an hour-and-a-half movie.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, I can understand why a lot of directors come out and do horror films right off the bat. I mean, they are pretty much probably of all the genres. I mean, horror films are probably the easiest to write per se.
They're the most forgiving. They really do allow the most leeway. But actually, there's a good question that kind of leads into that. There's one above it. Favorite part of filmmaking process? There's this editing. I love editing because editing is really where the movie comes together. The better I get and the more I do this, the more I think it's directing, because it really is just the full overall sight of the project. But then I see somebody here asked, did my taste in movies change once I started making them? I've always been a horror guy, and I love comedy too. But yeah, you look at things differently, and you learn a lot in filmmaking. To be honest, one of my favorite categories of movies right now, you can actually, right here, this movie is P.S. I Love You. I don't care what anybody says. That is one of the greatest movies ever made. I love it. It's so good. I just think it's so well written. I think it's so well acted. I honestly, I'm a horror guy right now. We've mainly done horror and comedy. I want to do a rom-com. Like that is on my to-do very soon list. Like I'd
Yes,
very much like to
that's
do it.
the one with Gerard Butler, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, me and my wife watch it probably once a year. I cry every time. Love it. Absolutely do. Hilary Swank's in it. So good.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I remember seeing that. I did the same thing. I cried too. Uh, let's see. Jamie saying horror is the best genre because it's honest. That's a good point.
Yeah, you can
Um,
get away with more. You know, you don't have to answer for as much. You can be creative and not have to like it's just more accepted, I think.
uh, thank you, Chadwick, very much. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, walk. Oh, everybody's favorite tear. Not everybody's favorite tearjerkers. A Walk to Remember. Yep, that's a great movie too.
That was
With
good.
Shane West and Mandy Moore. That's a good one. Um, yeah, rom coms. You know what? Rom coms. I like them too. I watch them too. I don't always particularly like the same. You know, the third act is always so. I don't like a movie where they force things. You know, like they force a conflict. Like one of my favorite rom coms is My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yep.
That movie is joy from the very first second. It's joy, and it's so fun, and there's no forced conflict. There's no running after the person to the airport. It's just a fun movie from the get go. You know that everything's going to be fine the instant the music starts, and I love that. You know, not and I just like what's wrong with the showing for 90 minutes. People are truly happy without any conflict at all. There's nothing wrong with showing it. I mean, I wish more directors would do that instead of sitting there, boy meets girl, girl meets boy, they get cute, and then in the third, you know, there here comes a conflict. You know, getting a job on the other side, they had a fight. You know, an ex comes in. It's like it's always forced. It always comes across as a cliche, and it's just nice to see. You know, it would be nice to see someone write a movie just to write a movie, just to show the happy ending. You know, they meet, they fall in love. You know, maybe they have a kid. You know, maybe show a little drama there, whatnot, and then at the end of the movie, there's no real threat of them ever breaking up or losing each other, and I like that. You know, Hallmark movies are pretty good at that. Um, yeah. Uh, You know what? I really enjoyed this interview so much. I cannot begin to thank you enough for coming out and doing this. Um, it's very rare I get a chance to talk to anybody who owns their own studio. I've only done it one other time, so it's really fun, and I get really excited when I do get a chance to talk to somebody like yourself. Thank you for giving up your time and your expertise, and thank you for your 15 years of saving lives. I appreciate that more than you know, and hopefully, after you get done with your first feature, come on back and
I
we'll talk
certainly
about
will, man. Anytime. And again, thank you for having me on. You guys can check us out, runningscaredmotionpictures.com. I got the YouTube, we've got TikTok, Instagram, and like I said, I'm here to make waves. I want to grow and I want to grow with people. I'm still always looking for passionate people, actors, actresses. I'm looking for a script supervisor, a boom pole operator. If you want to join the team, send me an email, send me a message. I want passionate, driven people that that they want to do it for the same reasons that I want to do it. So if you want to make art and create something awesome, and if it blows up and if we make money and do something, like great, but if not, like I want to create those memories and do something that I'm proud of. So feel free to reach out. And again, any questions too, also feel free to reach out.
I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and put all your socials, all your links down in the description box below, so
Appreciate
people can find you and they can reach out to you. Probably be best probably through Instagram. Is that good? Is that fair? Yeah,
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, any of the socials. I try to check them daily.
All right. And that includes his YouTube page, and you guys can come over there and sub to his page. That would be great. Yeah, that would be fun. He's got all his short films over there, and it's his channel is loaded with stuff to watch. So feel free to go over there and sub. Listen, thank you to the chat tonight. You guys have been outstanding once again. I had the
Thank you,
best
Chad.
chat on the tube. They're small but mighty, and they're very loyal. And I cannot begin to thank you for showing up and supporting us. Tomorrow night we're back at it. That's right. We will be talking to actress Angel Bradford. I can't wait to talk to her. She's doing a sequel to one of my favorite shark movies. Shark Exorcist 2. Yes, gotta love that. Thank you again, and we will talk to you guys. We will talk to you guys tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Josh, stay right where you're at, and good night, everybody.